All right. Good afternoon, TRTA. Tim Lee here with the Texas Retired Teachers Association. So glad that you're able to join me today. It was a late night last night. The Senate went pretty long, and today we've been following up and paying attention to other things that are going on in the Texas legislature. I know that I talked to Roy this morning about what our update is going to be about. So I've got several things that I just want to kind of cover with everybody as you're all getting logged in, but go ahead and do me a big favor and start typing in your hello messages so that I can see who's tuning in. I see Nancy Evans is here from El Paso. So glad you're here, Nancy. And Nancy, just so you know, and other friends from El Paso who are tuning in, we were talking about El Paso this week. It's probably the first chapter of the Texas Retired Teachers Association, because I was in Fort Worth earlier this week and visited with all of my friends from Fort Worth Retired School Employees Association. They had a great Diamond Jubilee. Roy, I know you're watching this on the other side. Diamond Jubilee is 75 years, and really proud of what a great program that was in Fort Worth. And you all did a great job. If you're watching from Fort Worth, go ahead and say hello in the comments. Roy, they gave me a diamond, a big diamond award, and I told them that I was going to have it put in my office, which I do have it in my office. But I'm doing the show from Dripping Springs today, everyone. So today is the last day of school for a lot of kids and teachers that are in our school district. So if you're an active teacher and you're tuning in to say hi, or if you have kids or grandkids that are enjoying the last day of school, I just want to say congratulations. I know school seems to get here and flies by. My youngest just finishing his freshman year at Dripping Springs High School, and we're really excited about what he has in store next year. But it's been a great day. And so I was a little closer to home, especially after the long night of session last night. And then as we started looking at what was happening this morning. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for checking in. Hello from Sci-Fair. Karen is here. Nelda is here from Port Neches. We see Dora is here from Brownsville, my friends down in the valley. Thank you so much. We've got Miriam from Forney, Texas. Cindy from Wiley. And let's see, Diana is here from Williamson. Wilco, baby, Wilco. All right, Williamson County is here. All right, well, keep saying hi. Keep putting in your questions. I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on that. And Roy can kind of keep an eye on them as well. And if he wants to post some on the screen, he can do that, and I'll try to pay attention. So, all right, well, there is a lot of news that's been going on as we're getting close to the end of the legislative session. I do want to say we have a little bit of a programming note. I'm going to say this now, and hopefully I'll get reminded to say it again at the end. And that is, there will not be a show next week. This will probably be the last show that we do for the current regular legislative session. And anytime somebody says current regular legislative session, somebody instantly thinks, is there going to be a special session? I don't have any reason to believe that. And I know a lot of people are hoping that's not true. But for this regular session, this is probably going to be our last show. I would love to have your comments, your suggestions. This is the second or third year that we've been doing TRTA Live during the legislative session. I would love to, get your feedback. Let us know what you think about these shows. Are they valuable to do when the session is over? Would you like us to do, one of these a month? Would you like to just kind of have an ongoing social media program every other week? Really need your feedback on that. I am messing around and mentally thinking about the Tim Lee show and, bringing on guests and focusing in on some other issues as we get out of the legislative session. Would love your comments on that too. If you all are sick of talking to me, and you would love to have somebody else on the screen, I am open to that as well. And so if you're want a new career as an influencer in the world of social media and thought you might want to spend some time on the other side of the camera, let me know. I might, we might be able to find some talent out there. So would really appreciate your comments. Just go ahead and send them to tim@trta.org. as well as info, info at trta.org. Okay, so see, a lot of folks are checking in. And I do this a little bit just because when we go live, as a lot of you know, depending on which social media venue you're using, it'll pop up on your screen and it'll say, hey, TRTA is going live now. And so just gives everybody a chance to check in. So I'm going to kind of dive into what we were dealing with last night. The Texas legislature was debating in the Texas Senate what appears to be an agreed to new version of school finance. This is, a big topic. I mean, obviously, we're talking about the dollars that the school districts are needing to ensure they can meet the needs of the students and the families and the faculty that they are working with. A lot of conversation this legislative session. I am in tremendous awe of our active school employees and employers. Y'all are doing an amazing job. It sounds like the resources have been, very tight. We all have some, I think, concept of how school budgets have been, just really difficult to manage, especially with inflation and rising costs of just keeping those schools going, from insurance to healthcare costs and everything else. And, our active teachers in need of a raise, our auxiliary personnel in need of a raise. And so a lot of these issues are funneling through House Bill 2. And there have been a number of reports about this legislation. And I think that if you're really tuning in to some of our friends and colleagues from the teacher organizations, including our good friends at ATPE, or any of the teacher organizations, I know they're all reporting on it, ATPE, TCTA, TSTA, Texas AFT, a lot of those folks are covering that and have some of their own views on it. And so those are good places to check out what may be going on there. I think that a lot of our friends in the school educator or the administration community definitely have some views on this. But I know that everybody's been working real hard, and legislators have been meeting on this and working to get it done and across the finish line. And I am not an expert on school funding. I pay attention to it. We talk about it internally, and largely we keep an eye on, especially when you're dealing with compensation issues. Will those compensation issues have an impact on TRS? From the beginning of this process, we have seen that the Legislative Budget Board and TRS have both said that there may be significant increases in unfunded liability for the retirement system. There's a lot of variables there. And so I think it's yet to be determined exactly what that impact is going to be. But if teachers are paid more, then those benefits at retirement will go up. Part of the other trick that you have is that as benefits increase, a lot of the times we talk about stability as one of the most important factors of managing a legacy pension plan like our TRS defined benefit plan. And so if you've got stability in contributions, if you've got stability in some variables like at what age are people generally retiring, and you kind of can project those, and if you can sort of project what the salary rates are going to be, and you build that in a little bit at a time over the years, it all finds a way to develop the policy that relates to funding, and you stay on a steady path. And then sometimes you have spikes, and these spikes can really change the overall actuarial condition of the system. I think back to the GPO loophole. So some of you who are watching this remember that in 2004 and prior to that, there was something called the GPO loophole. Man, if I had known then what I know now, I'd feel a whole lot better about everything. But back then, there were people that on their last day of employment under TRS, they wanted to work in one of our school districts in Texas that paid into Social Security and into TRS on their last day of employment. And if they did and they retired, then they would be exempt from the government pension offset. They'd still be affected by the windfall, but they would be exempt from this thing, the one that dealt with the spousal or the widow benefit. And so that loophole closed And we had in the year that loophole was closing, we had a big spike in the number of people that retired that year. And that influenced pension funding contributions for years afterwards, years not only in our pension system but also in our healthcare fund. So it's certainly like dropping a stone into water and seeing the ripple effect that goes on. And sometimes those spikes is like throwing a boulder into the water, and it just has a big impact. And I think that we're going to find out. And again, it's we're waiting on information from this legislative session to end, and for TRS actuary to look at it, and the TRS board to take a look at all of those things to see that if there's a spike in teacher pay, great, that's a great thing. We want teacher pay to go up. On the other side of that, it's if that teacher pay is going up higher than what the projections are that the actuary has based all of their regular calculations on, then it has an impact. And we think it is likely to be significant, and it may even push our TRS fund into not being actuarially sound. And so we at TRTA have been raising this issue all session long. Probably have been wearing out friends in the legislature that we depend on. But I'm confident that our message has been delivered. But I do believe that it is going to mean that all of us during the interim are going to have to really work hard to ensure that legislators know that as the next session comes around, some of the actions that occurred in this legislative session may have had a fiscal impact. And again, if you're new to TRTA and you are not entirely sure why that matters all that much, well, the big issue is that we still have the majority of our retirees are 30% behind inflation on their TRS benefit. There was a segment of folks that went to the polls and voted for retirees to get a raise in 2023, and they also were TRS retirees. But the deal that was constructed in that previous legislative session, it got us pretty far with helping everybody. But then there were more than 100,000 retirees that didn't get anything. They voted to support it because it was the right thing to do, and they wanted to do it, and they wanted the rest of the TRS retirees to get something. But those folks have not had any benefit increases and likely have not had a supplemental check. And some of them probably may have retired at an age that they're not yet eligible for their Social Security benefits. So there are a lot of things going on. If you think about Texas teacher retirement system, we have retirees that are 59, 60 years old on the lower side, but probably more like 62 to 63 is sort of the beginning retirement age for a lot of folks. But that may go all the way up to 106 years old. And we talked about in Fort Worth, and Roy, and again, I know you're listening on the other side of this, we're going to do a story about a son and mother combo where the son, who was also a TRS retiree, was bringing his mother, who was a TRS retiree, to every meeting of the Fort Worth retired teacher chapter. And they did that until I think she was 106 years old. So she didn't miss a meeting. Talk about commitment, everybody. She was, a very strong advocate for our association, and just loved hearing that story. But, you've got that age difference between the early 60s to 100 plus. And so, and those retirement benefits are all over the place. And, I think as an organization, people should know that TRTA is going to continue to work on providing benefit enhancements. In order for us to do that, the pension system has to be able to, they have to be able to be in a financial condition, which we call actuarial soundness, in order for the retirement benefits to go up. And so we're going to have to wait and see. And I'm not wanting us to ring all of the alarm bells right now, but I think we probably went backwards this session. And going backwards means that the decisions that may be getting made today and in the last few days of this legislative session could actually push us into not being actuarially sound. But here's the I guess the the benefit of giving people benefit of the doubt. There are a lot of people in that legislature that have years and years of history of working to bring TRS into an actuarial soundness condition. And I don't think they're going to abandon that plan. I think they're going to want us to help them in the coming session to continue to develop those plans. But here's what we need, everybody. And I say this probably remembering this is membership enrollment time, but we need to have a strong voice that is going to be sitting at that table saying, hey, we were listening when you all were making decisions that you needed to get the system or to get our school districts funded, to get our active teachers the raises that they needed to help our school districts. And sometimes if you squeeze in one area, then if you think about that as a balloon and you kind of squeeze that balloon, then that pressure goes to the other side. I think that's sort of what is going on a little bit. But I'm confident, I really am confident that you all have the great relationships with people in the legislature, as do we as an organization, to work on the funding mechanisms that will need to be taken care of. There's a lot that's probably going to happen in this economy over the next few months. So all of that to say, the legislature is finalizing the school funding package. They talk about being an $8.5 billion investment in our public schools, more than what had been there previously. Record level of funding. I know a lot of members that and friends that I've talked to in the educator community were really focused on the basic allotment, and I don't think that I am tied into those issues enough to be able to make comments on them. But I think the final decision document will show give and take between the House and the Senate on various aspects of that bill. For us specifically, we keep an eye on the TRS related stuff, and that those are things that we're going to have to continue to work on. So overall, I would say that this legislative session was very much a status quo legislative session. We were able to work with legislators to make, you want to have a baseline foundational level of work commitment going into a session. And primarily the two most important parts that we focus in on early on in session is making sure that our TRS contributions for the pension trust fund are there like they should be, and that there are no reductions, and also on our health insurance. And the legislature committed to very early in session and working with a lot of stakeholders in TRTA and the leadership in the legislature. They made sure that the budget commitments that they needed to make for TRS were written into the budget, that they were there. There were no reductions. I've seen legislators, from years ago. Again, I've done this. This is my 21st year that I've started working on these things. And years ago, there were times that legislators might make you chase the funding that you knew had to be there because it was statutorily committed for, like, TRS care, for example. And so you spent 2 or 3 months of the legislative session just trying to get that taken care of. And these budget writers this session, they didn't mess around at all. They've been real committed to it. Joan Huffman in the Senate, Greg Bonnet in the House. They maintain those TRS care contributions. Finance Committee, Appropriations Committee. We're very appreciative of that. But as we go forward, I think it's important to also know that we'll see how who shows up in the next legislative cycle and who's all going to be around. But TRTA is definitely going to have to be working on increasing funding for TRS, because I think that the solvency of the system is going to go down, and it doesn't mean that retirees should be concerned that their benefits are going to be harmed in any way, but it does mean that if the system is not actuarially sound or able to amortize that unfunded liability in less than a 31-year period, the legislature's options of giving retiree benefit enhancements, they go down drastically. And so I think that those are items that we're going to have to definitely pay attention to and work on. And there are a lot of other changes happening between now and the next legislative session that may have some impact. So TRTA members, while the 140 days is coming to an end, we had a lot of victories. We did not see an advancement of any benefit enhancement, cost of living raise, supplemental check, 13th check, stipend. There wasn't even a hearing on those things this legislative session. I was a little disappointed by that, but it just renews our effort that we need to make, and understand that every session can't always include all the issues that they wanted to deal with. But my hope is that you'll stick with us and you're going to help us make sure that the legislature and legislators, when they come home, that they are going to be connected with, and that relationship is going to continue to develop. And we're going to remind them that we still need to continue to work in that area. Excuse me. Had some interesting times during this legislative session. The whole conversation around funding of our schools and what fairness looks like really opened up, I think, a conversation that must be had about fairness in funding. And we spent a lot of time talking about that last week, and I don't want to belabor that too much. I just want to say that I appreciate Jeff Berry, State Representative Jeff Berry, who's a freshman, who was able to put together an amendment that really sort of articulated that if we're going to make changes to the contribution, or to the contributions that the retirement system is receiving from our employers, we need to either cover those costs or we need to be slower about making those changes happen. And again, I am glad to make a new friend this legislative session with our Texas Public Charter School Association, really stand-up folks that I look forward to talking to during the interim. And I think that also during the interim, the conversations that our friend Representative Giovanni Capriglione was having about fairness in funding, awareness in funding, and then Chairman of the Pensions Committee, Stan Lambert, talked about during that debate where we were talking about charter school funding this session. He had said that it was imperative that people really pay attention to what's going on with these dollars. The bottom line is that pension benefits are based on total payroll, but contributions to pay for those benefits, they're not based on total payroll. So we're actually paying out a benefit that is, that takes into an account all of the earnings, but we're covering over through lower funding the ability to pay for those benefits, because we're not actually getting the funding on the total payroll to pay for those benefits. So in other words, we're paying out at top dollar according to what has been set up in the pension system, but the revenues that we're receiving, you as an active employee, you're paying top dollar, but then the employer share is less than total payroll. And so because of that, we have a funding disparity, and that funding disparity puts pressure on the unfunded liability. And my guess is that if we had total funding, retirees would be receiving a lot more stipends or supplemental checks or something that would be able to help them. But somebody always pays. I remember in my early days in the legislative session, my good friend Ronnie Young, when he was the director of TRS and he would testify, I remember him saying over and over again, somebody always pays. And right now it's the pension system that's paying for these costs by having an increased unfunded accrued actuarial liability. And so, all of my friends that are representing active employers at universities and ISDs and Texas public charter schools, I'm sure they don't like me talking about this, and it is difficult because it's more money that's coming out of it. But I just know that when all of those folks eventually retire, and we are working on their behalf to try to get them a pension benefit increase, a COLA or something, by not receiving that funding today, it makes it much, much more challenging in the future. So anyway, we got a whole interim to talk about those things. And I think that's going to be a very busy part of our upcoming legislative activities. So Roy, I'm going to talk about Social Security fairness stuff next. Actually, Roy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the one big, beautiful bill. And so I didn't know I was going to have so much fun saying the name of a piece of legislation outside of Social Security Fairness Act. But for whatever reason, one big, beautiful bill just seems to really, capture people's imagination. But Roy, any comments so far that you're seeing in here that you think I should be hitting on right now? A lot of questions about receiving the benefits, and what you got.
Yeah. Just people talking about Social Security as usual. A lot of people chiming in, appreciating the updates. I always think of, when I think of fun bill names, early on in my TRTA career, Kevin Brady, former representative from the Woodlands, U.S. representative, he had filed, I think it was HR 711. So we spent, a few months talking about HR 711 that proposed to repeal the weapon GPO. So
Yeah,
that's a fun one. It's always interesting when we can come up with some fun bill numbers or bill names. So one big beautiful bill. I don't know what it is. I'm excited to learn more.
All right. Well, let's talk about it some, and we're getting, some of this data has come out as the House, the U.S. Congress has passed this bill. So look, I'll begin by saying, TRTA members, that you've been a part of us for a long time. You probably know that we have spent a majority of our time. The majority of our time has been working in the Texas legislature, because there were a lot of years where we had to try to work on funding plans, get retirees cost of living adjustments, supplemental checks, and frankly, the Congress was just disinterested and didn't have the political will to do what they ultimately did at the October through January of 2024 into 2025, when they passed Social Security fairness. So we were spending a considerable amount of our legislative activity time working very much statewide on Texas legislative issues. But I really want to, want to try to make sure that you all understand that when the Social Security Fairness Act passed, it opened the door to a greater responsibility that the Texas Retired Teachers Association in particular, and my friends in Massachusetts that I'm going to this conference with, Sean Duhamel, I believe that there has been a new paradigm that has been created because of the passage of the Social Security Fairness Act, because of our communication that we had with an engaged population that really worked hard on that. And as we look into the crystal ball and we see what is going to happen sometime in the future, it is imperative that our current TRS retirees know that we have now another seat at a bigger table, that our presence and our expertise and our ability to influence what is going to happen has started to occur. We became well known in the Washington, D.C. community as a statewide organization, but one that was having an extra large influence on the process that was unfolding. That goes for a lot of the groups that we work with. That's our friends at Guardians for Social Security. That's our friends at the California Retired Teachers Association, the Illinois Retired Teachers, Ohio Retired Teachers, Missouri. All of these groups that started really pushing in to ensure the Social Security Fairness Act was going to pass. We developed a contact relationship with people that we cannot allow that because we pressed in there now and we have a voice there now. The idea that we can backtrack from that, I think, would be foolish and dangerous. And so what does that mean for us as an organization? And it's something that if you're a TRTA member and you're one of the 97,000 members, I would hope that it would mean more than anything that the other 400,000 people that are in our Texas teacher retirement system who are currently retired and sort of just sitting on the sidelines, believing that we're going to continue to do all the work and they're going to benefit from that, that those folks, don't sit on the sidelines anymore, and that they will put on the jersey and get in the game, because we need them. We need their help. We need their voice. We need, honestly, we need their their dues financial resource support. That's that is the lifeblood of an organization. And so you have been pushed out onto this national stage. We have been pushed out into this as an organization onto this national stage, and we have a prominent voice and a presence. And so that is, it's vital for what is coming next. And we're beginning to look and see these things inside of our, the crystal ball that I mentioned. You can look at what is occurring in other pieces of legislation and say, here is a roadmap for where we may be going. And primarily, when it comes to TRS retirees, we obviously care about Medicare funding. Medicare as a program is one of the most popular programs. That, along with Social Security, are two of the most popular programs that the federal government currently participates in and that they manage and that they have control over. And if you spend any time reading the reports on what is happening in these bills, especially the bill that has moved out of the House and is now going to the Senate, there's an organization in Washington that works for the United States Congress called the Congressional Budget Office. And their job is to be a nonpartisan fact group that is providing financial data to the Congress. So when they make decisions, they are having somebody who is outside of the political realm, who is providing information about the public policy realm, saying, if you do this, this could be the financial outcome. And so I've been reading a lot of the articles that have been coming out about what has been transpiring in this bill pattern that Congress is working on. And it is talking about some potential impact to Medicare. And that is an issue that affects all of us, whether you're on TRS care with the UHC plan or not, or if you're not in TRS care, but you're a TRS retiree and maybe you have a Medicare supplement plan on your own in the individual market. One of the things that I read today said that the Congressional Budget Office estimates the bill, this, I don't know what the right name for it's going to be, but we'll just call it the beautiful bill. That bill will increase the federal deficit by $2.3 trillion over 10 years. And this could trigger automatic spending cuts under the Statutory Pay-As-You-Go Act of 2010, potentially reducing Medicare spending by $45 billion in 2026 and $490 billion from 2027 to 2034, primarily through reduced provider reimbursements. And in my experience, anybody, whenever you're talking about reduced provider reimbursements, that increases the individual's out-of-pocket costs. And so that is an area that, as an organization, we're going to have to really be paying attention to. Obviously, this bill has gone to the Senate, and we have been working to maintain good levels of communication with our Texas senators, John Cornyn and Ted Cruz. And I've reached out to both of their offices this week, and am waiting for some feedback on how the Congress may be dealing with these increased costs that may be pushed onto Medicare participants. And so, it's not that far into the future. They're talking about 2026 now. I am not picking a partisan side. I feel like in today's world, if you say something that sounds critical, somebody's going to perceive that you're picking a side. And I don't believe this audience thinks that, but I think for people who might stumble upon this and watch this video, we are a nonpartisan organization of school employee retirees here in Texas who have a track record of being bipartisan, in that we work with Democrats and Republicans without any thought of political partisanship. but we're also nonpartisan in the sense that we don't get involved in political elections. We work with whoever's in these seats, and we get along with all of them. Oftentimes I'll joke with people and say, I'm a Republican. But that's just sort of a laugh line. But the reality is, and we have to take this seriously, that a nonpartisan view of any change is going to be something that could affect the pocketbooks of our TRS retirees. And if you're on TRS care and they make significant changes to Medicare or how they handle Medicare for the kind of program that we have with TRS, which is a group Medicare supplement plan, and what those reimbursements are, and whether or not they're doctors that'll continue to choose to accept those reimbursement rates, and what's going on, those are all things that that we as an organization are going to have to spend a lot more time, getting involved with. I know every member of the Texas legislature. I know them pretty well. I have not all of their phone numbers and cell phone numbers, but I got a lot of them. And if I feel like I need to connect with one of them, I feel like I can. Congress is a little bit different. And I think as an organization, having 10 or 15 congressional members that I know personally and can connect with, we probably need to expand that outreach. So that was a long way of saying, I think there are some potential cuts that we're going to be having to look at. And as an organization, we're going to have to be vocal and involved. And so it is even possible that before the 4th of July break, which I think is what the Senate has said they want to have this bill done by, we might have to have some engagement with those folks. Now, turning our attention finally to the Social Security fairness, and I tried to mix it up this week because people say I talk too much about Social Security, and then everybody who's wanting to tune in for the state legislative activities, they are disappointed that I didn't do it sooner. And then I'm sure this week I'll have people that may tell me that, you should have talked about the Social Security stuff first. Unfortunately, I don't have a great deal more to share. I have doubled down on my efforts to try to get the new Social Security administrator on our live show. I have sent in even more requests for information. The one thing that I can tell you is that more and more of the phone calls that I've been dealing with this week, I haven't kept count, but I would say probably north of 80 phone calls with TRTA members, and the majority of those phone calls where people had not received their benefits yet, there was something about their Social Security contributions that they were not sure about, or, and this has been the bigger one, I've had a number of spouses that I've talked to who were eligible to receive a spousal benefit from a previous relationship or marriage, and then their spouse, may have passed away, and then that retiree became remarried, and the Social Security Administration is trying to determine, which of these benefits they might be eligible for. And I think that when I looked at it yesterday, I think it was 84% of all of the folks have been now processed, but that still, again, leaves that 16%. It may be as high as 86% now. So between 14 and 16% of people around the country that have not yet received their Social Security benefits. I think that the question that everybody is asking, and I had this question probably 5 times when I was in Fort Worth, should I be worried or should I be patient? And I think that worry is probably not the right sentiment. I think that the right sentiment is that we're being observant and we're watching for what may be coming your direction. But we know that the Social Security Administration has said that it may take until November before they start getting to the very end of processing those rebates and those repayments. Some of you have communicated to me that you've had more success in talking to a local office and trying to get your benefits settled that way. And when we started this conversation back in January and February, we were not sure how that process was going to move forward. As a matter of fact, when we were doing this in early March, the Social Security Administration was essentially telling everybody only call us and at that 800 number. And I still think that's a great idea. Roy, get ready to put that 800 number on the screen if you can. I think it's 1-800-772-1213. But knowing that I'm doing that from memory and not from looking at their website, I might screw it up. So that is still, a great phone number to call. I've had some people that have shared with me an email that they received from the Social Security Administration that said, hey, we may owe you money. And more of these emails have been hitting inboxes of retirees. And you can generally believe that it's legitimate when it starts talking about connecting you to the Social Security contact number. And I'll see if Roy's put it on the screen. No, he's working on it. So, if you're getting those emails and if you've got a question about an email that you've received, you can always reach out to me, tim@trta.org or info@TRTA. Had a lot of folks that I was dealing with on that particular issue. Hey, I got it right, Roy, 772-1213. I've called that number way too many times, I guess, over the last 3 or 4 months. So that is a great place to continue to get information, to continue to get updates. A lot of people are still in the situation of they've been told they're going to be getting some money, but they have not been told when it's coming or how much it's going to be. The counsel that I provide to most folks is if you're in doubt, or if you are experiencing some anxiety about, where is this? I strongly encourage you to connect at least through that phone number that's on the screen for the Social Security Administration, even if you've already called them 2 or 3 times. I am confident in this, and that is that the Social Security Administration employees have been, for the majority, have been pretty helpful in making sure that information is correct, that they're just waiting on the processing to occur, and asking for people to be patient. If you have not yet filed for benefits, if you are not sure whether or not you might be eligible for those benefits, again, I would encourage you to call that number sooner than later. I am still on my quest to try and get the 6-month back payment to actually be the 12-month back payment if people would have been eligible for that benefit prior to what has transpired with the implementation of the GPO repeal. I still firmly believe that retirees should not be punished because a Social Security administrator may have told a retiree not to apply when they first became eligible for a spousal benefit or a widow benefit, but because of the GPO, they shouldn't waste their time. That was the wrong message to send. And again, I think if you were to be, honest, most people would probably say they never ever thought the WEP and the GPO would ever be repealed. Certainly people at Social Security Administration largely never believed that was going to happen. Still, that's bad counsel. And for the SSA to implement a ruling decision on how to process that, knowing really full well that a lot of their agents in the field told people don't bother applying, seems pretty disingenuous to me. And I think that it's something that needs to be fixed. I'm also working with our Texas senators, and probably we'll try to see if we can get some help on this as well from other members in the U.S. Senate to potentially try to find some tax savings for these payments that have occurred. I am not a CPA. I'm not a lawyer. There should be a big, screen that's flashing right now behind my head that says not a CPA, not a financial planner, not an attorney. The one thing that I'm pretty sure, though, is that if you receive compensation from the GPO or the WEP as a form of back payment, it's likely that you're going to have to pay tax on that in the next taxable year. So that's something to keep an eye on and to have a few dollars saved. There's been some discussion from some of my colleagues. We have talked about trying to find a way to see that those back payments are not taxable. I'm trying to find a path on that in this bill that's now moved to the Senate. It's revenue that the federal government really shouldn't be able to count on or say that they were counting on. So the cost to the federal government should be non-existent because they didn't expect to make these payments. So, that's not been done yet. That's not part of the bill pattern, but it's something that we're trying to get people to talk about and help us with. And so there are a lot of irons in the fire. And, my last appeal to all of you as we kind of end this Friday conversation is to just say, help us stay in the game, help us be strong, continue to be a member of the organization, find more people to be involved. And I'm looking at the comments from people saying they're still waiting. November is ridiculous. I do not disagree. That is why we are, poking every week. I'll have at least 4 or 5 emails and phone calls to SSA saying, hey, I need your help. I need somebody who has authority to talk to us and to try to get this done. And we're going to keep doing that. I'm going to poke Congress as much as I can to try to get it done. I still think we should have a hearing by the Social Security Subcommittee on Ways and Means in the U.S. Congress on how the implementation has been handled. We should have somebody talk who's received their funding and how that's been a good thing. I think Congress needs to hear that. I think you should have somebody testify who said, hey, I haven't gotten mine yet. And I don't really have an understanding of why I don't have that yet. And so there's no reason they shouldn't have that hearing. And so going to continue to push on that as much as we can. And so Diana and I are agreeing on a lot of these things. Thank you for your comments, Diana, on that as well. Roy, any other comments that you think I should be addressing here before we sign off for the week?
No, I think you've done a phenomenal job addressing the comments and concerns a lot of these people have. And just want to congratulate you on having a very successful session in terms of this live show. I think we've seen a lot of progress even through all the people who showed up during the times that weapon GPO had just gotten repealed to the people who have stuck with us through this time and continue to be informed about what's going on with SSA and, of course, what's going on in our legislative session here in Texas. We appreciate everybody coming through, and this is not the end of the show. We're in terms of we will continue to have a live show occasionally, but right now this is the last kind of scheduled one on our docket for the weekly shows. But we will return, and as Tim said, we've got some ideas, irons in the fire about a Tim Lee show about some other subjects that don't necessarily touch onto the legislative and advocacy areas. But I think it's fun and exciting, and we appreciate everybody coming.
Yeah, I think, Roy, the other big part of this is that a lot of these comments are people talking to each other during this video presentation. And I think that, participation and help is a really big part of this organization. Yeah. So good, well said. Send me your comments about how to move forward with the show. As I said, I will be in Massachusetts next week, so we will not have a show then. We'll send out an inside line when session is over and we kind of have a final review. We're also working on our news bulletin article that will be talking about all of the legislative activities. Be sure to make sure that your TRTA membership is current so that you will be able to receive that news bulletin when it comes out. And find a friend or two and ask them to be a part of this organization. There are many big issues that still need to be addressed. And if you think about it, I don't know of any other $35 annual investment that has probably yielded as big a return on investment as what a lot of our members are seeing because of the work that they have done and that they have empowered us to try to help them with. But they're the real heroes here. So y'all stay informed, stay in touch. And remember, TRTA is working for you. Roy, have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.